Welcome to Keeping Up with Our Community, a podcast for and about Romeo Community Schools. Each week, we will invite different guests to share insights about some unique aspects of our schools. This podcast is powered by the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. If you're looking to start a podcast for your business or personal use, look no further than MIT TV. They can get you access to equipment, a production engineer, and you can even edit your podcast. That's all right here at the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan, and you can contact them right now via email at mit.tvromeo@gmail.com. That's mitt.tvromeo@gmail.com. Hello, my name is Marianne Brush, and I am the Communications and Marketing Supervisor for Romeo Community Schools. It is my pleasure to introduce Episode 10 of the Keeping Up with Our Community Schools podcast. Today's episode will focus on the transformational work with Ford Next Generation Learning and the Academies at Romeo. With us is our host for today's episode, Assistant Superintendent of Academic Services, Jennifer McFarland, along with Ford NGL Community Coach Scott Palmer, Academy Coach Rich Bojo, and Romeo Middle School Principal Brad Martz. I will now turn it over to Ms. McFarland to lead the discussion.
So, welcome to episode 10. My name is Jennifer McFarland, and I will be hosting today's podcast. And we are going to be talking about our work as a district with Ford Next Generation Learning and our transformation to the Academies at Romeo. So, I'd like to have our guests introduce themselves. So, Mr. Palmer, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you're connected with Romeo?
Sure. Thank you, Ms. McFarland. Well, I've been connected with Romeo for over 50 years. I moved here when I was 3 years old, so I'm a lifelong Romeoite. RCS grad, Romeo High School graduate, class of 1986, woot woot. Parent of two RHS graduates. I had a daughter 2015 and a son 2017. And been connected, I guess, in education for, going 30 plus years. I was a business and math teacher and a career tech ed director in another Macomb County school district. I was also the career tech ed consultant for the Macomb County at the Macomb County Intermediate School District, so I was able to support all 21 school districts. And I've been with Ford Next Generation Learning for the past 8 years.
So our next guest is Mr. Rich Bojo. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and your current role in Romeo?
Absolutely, and thanks for having me out today. I came to Romeo in 1999, and I have been in Romeo ever since. It's the only spot that I've ever been employed in education, and it's been great. I was an English teacher for 19 years, and for the last 6, I have been academy coach at the high school. Really, what I do as academy coach is do my best to bring the community and business people in the area together to transform education in our community.
We'll talk a little bit later and dig a little deeper about what does that look like, what does that mean. So our third guest with us this afternoon is Mr. Brad Martz. Tell us about yourself and where you're currently at in Romeo.
Fantastic. Thanks for letting me be here as well. So I started education in about 2000 at a different school district, just a little south of here. Biology teacher and 8th grade science teacher. Came to Romeo in about 2009 as assistant principal, became principal in 2011. So about 13 years in the district, working here with our students here in Romeo.
So the topic today is about community transformation. So let's talk a little bit about the work that Ford NGL does with communities and how we have leveraged that to move towards the Academies at Romeo High School. And you'll hear a little bit about our work to transform into the Academies at Romeo Middle School. Mm-hmm. So Scott, why don't you start with the work of Ford NGL and talk about community connectedness?
Sure. First thing, I guess, is that we are a transformation model, and we're partially supported by the Ford Motor Company Fund, which is the philanthropic arm of Ford Motor Company. Often folks will think that the work that we do isn't directly looking for employees at Ford Motor Company. And while we'll take all the fantastic young people from Romeo that Ford can get, just like every other company, this really is about philanthropy. It's about building community. It's about allowing young people to be successful in whatever their endeavor is. So we really look at transforming by bringing all of the community together to surround themselves around the school district. So again, we'd have every stakeholder group. If you think about the idea that it takes a village to raise a child, we're really thinking about as it takes a community to raise a school district. So with the work that has to be done to allow our young people to be prepared for the world that they have to navigate, it really can't just be on the teacher or just be on the parent or even just be on, community support members. It really has to be everyone coming together because it is such a heavy lift in this ever-changing world.
So I think one of the key things that when we were going through the master planning process with the high school was that it wasn't the school's idea of what we needed. We really brought in our business partners that we had already established with our CTE programs and some new partners and people from our local civic organizations, parents, students, to really talk about how could we do school differently. So talk maybe anyone, Rich as the academy coach or Scott, like what types of things what do we mean by that, to do school differently and actually transform the experience for our kids?
Well, if I give it to you kind of at the high level, and then Rich probably can give you a little bit more of what it looks like day to day on the ground. The idea that school has to be relevant, has to be connected, has to not just be something that happens within four walls of a building, has to be in a place where young people can answer the question, why do I need to learn that for themselves? The idea of engaging young people by making connections to whether it's to careers or to things that they're interested in. Because again, our young people have information at their fingertips in their phones and are bombarded, quite frankly, with and overstimulated with information. So we really want to make connections that allow them to understand why they're engaging and why they're actually focusing, I guess, in some of those. So I guess that's kind of the overarching why for me, at least. And maybe Rich, what does that look like for you when you're actually doing the work?
Well, I mean, Scott, I've used the word connect, you've used the word connect and transform, and I really think that's really at the heart of what's going on here. And, again, that's my job, is to try and take that big idea, that idea of community connectedness and, kind of put it boots on the ground within our school. And, there's a lot of different ways that we make that happen in Romeo High School, using our community, not just our business partners, but the community in general, area colleges. There are different experiences that we promise the kids here at the Academies at Romeo at different grade levels. Those start with our freshman academy. I mean, we have a seminar class specific just for college and career exploration. Kids explore their learning styles or personalities. They take deeper dives into possible careers or colleges or interests that they have. And all that helps them choose a pathway within an academy for their 10th, 11th, or 12th grade year at the high school. And some of the things that we promise the kids beyond those college visits at the 1012 building are pathway specific industry tours. Think of your typical class field trip, but it's pathway specific. So the kids get to actually see what a business looks like, hear from people within that industry, really start to figure out, is this something I want to do or not? As they become juniors, we offer them job shadows, or the opportunity to take a job shadow, and then expand on that when they're seniors with possibility for work-based learning or internships. And there's guest speakers, and there's all kinds of ways that the community and the business community can get engaged with our school.
So I know ninth grade is quite a year for those students. They also visit Novi Expo Center. That's not called that anymore.
Career Quest.
Career Quest. So 12 buses full of ninth graders going down with Romeo Community Schools on the side. We also allow them to visit our career fair that we host in our gymnasium. You did something different and unique this year with some of our ninth graders to attract some of them towards advanced manufacturing. Do you want to talk a little bit about that great opportunity that our partners open their doors for?
Sure. I was excited about that one. So to gain more interest in advanced manufacturing, which has been kind of a low pathway, and we really need to support that more for Macomb County. We're such a manufacturing county. We partnered with L&L Products, TK Mold, and Lanzin, and I basically organized a mini manufacturing day for students who showed advanced manufacturing as one of their potential top 3 pathway choices. And then we spent the day at those 3 companies. I spent about an hour and a half or an hour at each one able to hear about the industry. And it was unique really too, because L&L is like on the global scale. Lanson is, I don't know, they're a 40 or $50 million a year business. And then TK Mold is more of your mom and pop kind of shop manufacturing. So it was great for the students and parents. I invited parents along as well.
How many parents tagged along?
I think we had 6 or 7.
Brave souls.
Well, I don't think
Thank you.
I don't think their kids were happy about it, but
That's all right.
it was good for them to see it, because that's where those decisions really get made about their pathways, is at home. And it's important for parents to be able to see and hear all the opportunity that's there in advanced manufacturing.
So, Mr. Martz, next question is going to come your way. So, you know a little bit about what the work we do at the high school, and Dr. Robinson and I kind of brought this idea. Hey, let's do some work at the middle school. So, tell us a little bit about where we are and a little bit of the backstory of what's happened since August this year.
Sure. Well, I guess the conversation started a few years ago. We went to a site visit in Akron, Ohio, and a team of teachers went down there, and we came back. We were ready to transform Romeo Middle School by Friday. So give us about 2 days. We got the whole thing mastered, right? And we know the work at Romeo High School took multiple years and still kind of progressing as we kind of go through this. We're always changing to meet the needs of the students. So we came back super excited, ready to go. Have all these conversations, and we started working with our teachers and introducing to what it could be and what it could look like. Instead of kind of the career piece, we're looking more at philanthropy. The students will see career opportunities through that philanthropy lens, but really kind of getting them out there to see what philanthropies are around here in Macomb County area.
So the focus for our middle school will be working with our nonprofits and community-based organizations to give back to the community, which we know middle schools age children really want to change the world. So hopefully we'll give them an opportunity. If not the world, we can change the world around them in the schools. So talk to us about our master planning and kind of who were some of our people at the table when we started that in the fall.
So we started working our master plan, and one of the most different things or unusual things that brought me a lot of excitement was our first professional development day at Romeo Middle School to kick off the year. And we actually had community members there. Scott Palmer was there with us, the NGL coach was with us today, and parents and students, and the total energy change in the atmosphere of just bringing everybody together to kind of help our students succeed in school. And then we kind of broke into our tag teams, got co-chairs from community members as well as teachers too, to start really kind of planning what it's going to look like for Romeo Middle School here in the future.
So it's really not only changing a schedule, it's really changing how we think about teaching and learning, how we think about partnering with families and community, and then building some different kind of structures.
Yeah, so those are kind of the tactics areas that we're working at right now. Structures, communication is really big that we're talking about, how we can change the structure of the building to really kind of invite our community members back in there and give our students those experiences. And we talked about our 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade kind of have a theme to them of exploring, kind of learning things about engaging with our communities, and then finally empowering our 8th graders to make a change or a change and maker challenge in the process here for those students as they move through the 3 grade levels.
And while they're involved in those experiences, as you had mentioned briefly, there is some intentional career exploration because a lot of times I think people think in nonprofits or community-based organizations they can't have a career or find a well-paying job. So we're going to have our students be able to learn that a little bit. So the intense work that they do at the 9th grade academy, hopefully they'll be bringing some more information about some careers around them before they get to 9th grade. So I'm going to go back to you, Rich. So I remember, I think I was sitting on a bus in Nashville and I talked to you about, hey, what do you think about being an academy coach? What has above expectation, what are some things that really, when you think back, you said 6 years now as academy coach?
Yeah.
Or 5.5. I think we made you teach virtual during a little bit of,
just a little bit.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
But what surprised you, or what's above expectation of the role that you have and the work that you're embedded in?
Well, I think I'm thinking back to what Mr. Martz said about the middle school and about bringing everybody together. And I remember before I was academy coach, working on some of the pre-planning for our academy and, sitting in the big room with all the high school teachers and the stakeholders in the community, and, talking about, the portrait of a graduate or profile of a graduate. And, just now, 6 years later, all the work that has gone into that, I walk the halls of the high school and I see what happens within the classrooms and the pathways and the teachers and their teacher and the teaming and the fact that everyone is really pulling in the same direction. And it's not easy to make that happen in any organization, especially a school. And I think that's really what I'm most proud of, is the continuous improvement and the continuing to build and, do what's best for the kids.
And I remember when we were dealing with the pandemic and teachers were teaching in person and virtually for kids at the same time. And I remember some of the high school teachers were the structures that we have within the high school and those small learning communities, SLC time, as well as the PLC time, professional learning communities with their counterpart with the content, that really was a galvanizing opportunity for them to really lean on one another through a really challenging and difficult time. And I remember we were on, I think, a call with Cheryl or from Ford NGL or somebody, and it was like that really allowed us to continue our work and not have to completely say stop. I think our first graduating class was class of 2022. Was that
The
correct?
first
Full
cohort,
experience
yes.
going through ninth grade academy throughout. And I know, unfortunately, some of those kids, one of them was your daughter, didn't get as many experiences, but I know our teachers really felt supported within the model that we have. And the block schedule and the opportunities they have to collaborate, not only with themselves and their counterparts, but business partners. Talk a little bit about, I know we did a professional development where our teachers went out into some of our partners. Tell us a little bit about some of the work maybe that's going on this year, and I think we're going to highlight one next week.
Yeah, I mean, we want to give the experiences to our students, right, inside of school, outside of school, but a lot of our teachers don't know anything beyond teaching. I didn't really, I was an English teacher and that's what I did. I didn't understand advanced manufacturing or the healthcare system, or, I've had those opportunities to go into those companies now and those businesses and learn about them. And we felt that it was important for our teachers to do the same thing. So for the past, we've done it twice now. We take one of our professional development days and we partner with 9 different area businesses, and our teacher teams head out for 2 or 3 hours to that company. They get a tour of the facility, they talk to the employees, they learn about the industry, and then they can take that knowledge back to their classroom. And when they're talking to kids about careers, they have a little bit more insight, or even more, they can start to link their curriculum and what they're teaching within their content, whether it's a CTE class or a core class, and talk about how this is relevant in the real world, which is always a match we want to make with the students.
Right. So I think, Scott, you talk about that as teaching through the lens.
Absolutely.
And that's the challenge, because most of the time our content area teachers, they went to school to be a teacher. All they know is that. So having those business partners either come in and support teachers, or teachers go out to see and listen and hear. And I think it was Paula Barkley, one of our coaches, talked about see it, hear it, smell it, feel it. It's just as important for our teachers to do that as well as our students. So Scott, you travel the world.
Yeah, too much.
Right. Most of the Ford NGL communities are within the United States, but I know we have some friends coming this week from Scotland. But what are some things you notice either nationally in the districts you work with that we might learn as a community to maybe continue our growth? As Rich said, we're about continuous improvement.
Well, and I think that's just it. First of all, every community is unique, and the work that we do in these different communities is providing the environment and providing the right people and the right structure to be able to allow you to create what you need. Even this idea that you talked about, be Romeo, that's really what we're trying to accomplish, is allowing everyone to come in and say, what does it mean to be Romeo? And what do all of the things that we need to put in place in order for our young people to leave, potentially, whether it be for post-secondary education, for enlistment, for employment, and be able to say, I am ready to get whichever of those I believe are my path and my journey. and to be successful. What we would love is when they can say, you know what? I don't know whether I'm going to this particular university, a community college, a trade school, but whatever it is, I'm ready. I'm prepared, and I will get accepted into whichever of those that is, or whichever order they want to pursue those. So I think that's number one. Number two, the idea that it's never done, and this idea that we need to be just as nimble in education as the rest of the world has to be, and in their, whether it's their professional or personal lives, with the way things are changing so quickly. And so when we have this type of continuous improvement model, when we have this type of community connection, that means that we can stay current. And it's not just about making sure that we have certain content that's always kind of been there, but keeping that content connected and relevant to the world that the young people are going to be able to manage. So we see that. But I will tell you that that is always the hardest part. And it goes back to what you all have just said about this idea that, you know, from teaching, we've gone from, we were most likely really good in the content area for a high school teacher. We became a science teacher because we loved science class when we were in high school. And if that didn't make our way into a laboratory or a medical profession before we found our way back to teaching, then we truly know what we know from there. So now asking in teacher school to teach what's the application of that content, well, we may have never had that experience, which is why it's so powerful when you so rightly take the teachers out and say, here, let's look and see where science is in healthcare, in manufacturing. So when we come back, we're still teaching the same content. We're still teaching the same standards. Our kids are still ready for the test, the post-secondary, because it's not what we teach, it's how we teach it. And the young persons can say, you know what, I want to learn that now, or please teach me more about that, because I know I need it, because I want to be the person I just saw when I was on my job shadow, or I want to make sure that I'm ready for this opportunity that I heard at a post-secondary institution or an apprenticeship school or whatever it happens to be. So that piece of it is the most difficult, but it is so powerful once you get there. And sometimes it really truly is about getting our teachers almost in some ways to let go. You know, we were always the reason, again, we go back to that. I was really good in math or business, and that's, so I chose to be that. Typically, most teachers don't choose to be something that they probably were not successful in school. So now let's let go of that a little bit. Let's let the students explore. Let's just facilitate. Let's provide opportunities. The same way Mr. Bojo said, we're providing opportunities for the teachers to learn. You know, we didn't walk out there and say, okay, let's open up a textbook and let me show you what it looks like in advanced manufacturing.
Right.
We said, let's get out there and feel it and see it and do it, and then we can make the connections ourselves. Well, how do we make that same environment in our classrooms for our young people? The teacher to say, let me create the environment so you can discover, as opposed to let me tell you about how we might do science.
Yeah, and that's always the fine line with letting go of also, I think teachers like control and order.
Absolutely.
And, you know, almost being given permission to explore a different way.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I've seen with some teachers really experimenting or you know, allowing for choice and voice, which I know is important. That's part of our strategic plan. And I know that that's something that was very exciting when we started the work with the middle school transformation planning, Mr. Martz. Talk a little bit about your vision of voice and choice with students and how that plays into the work that we're planning to launch in the fall.
You know, it's interesting that you talk about the choice and voice part in there, because students really want to have that choice. They want to solve a lot of things in there. And it's not just it's creating those structures inside the building, that opportunity for those student advisory councils, leadership opportunities, getting their feedback on what the building can look like. If they own a piece of it, if they own a part of that content that we're talking about here, or own a piece of the building, they're going to take more ownership and becoming a better part of that area.
And just the pride that they would have that they're part of something.
Correct.
And school's not being done to them.
Right.
Correct.
You know, I think when I think about what we saw in Akron on our study visits and students really feeling like they're heard. and not just by their teachers, but most of the time in middle school, it's the adults that they live with and the adults in the building that they may have the connections with or that they spend their most time with. So to see them work with some of our community partners during the master planning, they were not shy on sharing their opinions.
No, they were.
And I'm just excited for those opportunities for our students to not only learn about the careers and the nonprofit organizations and the sectors that are out there, but really to have them plan something to make a difference, either through volunteering or we talk about this change maker challenge that we're planning for our eighth graders, and really to make a difference in their community and form some relationships with people outside of the four walls in Romeo Middle School. So we talked a little bit about a profile of a graduate. What does that look like in the work of this transformation? And I'll open it up to anyone that would like to start first.
Well, I think we touched on it before. I mean, it happened by bringing the entire community together, like every stakeholder group you can think about, and really boil down what does the community want as a graduate of Romeo High School? And, kind of condensing all that information down into now a visual, a graphic that's in every classroom. And we try to get our teachers to use that as almost like a lens to teach through as well. Like, every decision we make as a school, we try to use that, to think about, if we do this, is it going to help that, right? Is it going to help create that graduate who is ready for whatever when they leave Romeo High School? That could be college, that could be straight into a career, it could be a combination of both. There's lots of off ramps in between both of those. So I think we kind of, use it. I don't know. I think it's a term I'll steal from you, like a North Star almost, like use it to.
Like it
reflect
guides
on
us,
it.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the exciting part is, so we wrote it before we launched the academies at the high school, and we didn't know what we didn't know. We took feedback obviously from a bunch of stakeholders. And I know last March we went to our partners at our March retreat and asked for some more feedback. And did it make sense? And what were some things maybe that we were missing? We had teachers at the table, we had some of our students and some of our business partners. So we took that feedback from March, and the high school team has been working on revising that profile of a graduate. Our ninth grade team has been working through it because they spend a lot of time in ninth grade seminar, really teaching what those look like and having students reflect upon it and such. So fingers crossed, we'll have the updated graphic at our March retreat this Thursday that we'll be able to roll out. I'm pretty excited about it. I saw another draft today that is even more exciting. And what we'll do at the middle school, and I know that we've talked about this, Brad, is we're going to use that and make sure that the language is middle school friendly and something that middle school students can look at and say, I can do this to be ready to go to the high school.
Yeah, I think it's that North Star you talked about earlier about us helping the high school get ready for those and that profile of the graduate and getting that language ready for those students moving forward.
So I know I call it the 3 Ps and the 3 Cs, and I always leave something off the list, but talking about professionalism and perseverance and purpose and critical thinking, communication,
Collaboration.
and that would be it. Thank you, Mr. Bojo. So some of that may seem like education speak. We might have to, have that on the profile, but also continue to use some business terms. And I think that's something that Ford NGL helps support and districts with as well, is we've got to get out of our way of just using education speak and acronyms. Really think about the business careers and using that lingo. Anything to offer there, Scott?
Yeah, well, I think it really goes back to the purpose of the portrait and the idea when you bring all of the community together. We as educators have a lot of edu-speak. Well, there's jargon in every single industry sector as well.
Yeah.
But now we're bringing everybody together for a common purpose. Well, other than going to school, what is the commonality between everybody in the room? And if we can talk about the idea of a portrait of a graduate, that a lot of the things you mentioned, the 3 Cs and the 3 Ps, are things that everybody understands, experiences in their career, experiences in their personal life, experiences as they grow and mature. So it provides a common language right out of the gate. As we bring all stakeholders together to do this work, we need to find the commonalities. We need to make everyone just as comfortable in doing this work as we try to make students comfortable in the classroom. So when you see that, okay, I was able to contribute to that, and it's also something that, you know what, if our students have these things, we hear so much, and Mr. Boja, I'm sure you do as well, from our employers that say, you know what, if they have those things that are in that portrait or that profile,
Yeah.
we can teach them how to do the job.
We can teach them anything. I hear it all
Right.
the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but what do we think about typically and traditionally in school is we teach them the stuff,
The content.
and then they've got to figure out how to navigate the real world when they get out there in the real world and they go into their first job like, oh, I don't know what to do.
Right.
Because they don't have those interpersonal skills and the skills that allow them to be successful and problem solve and critically think and work together to almost in some ways they can contribute as a new employee before they even understand the technical parts of their job, because they understand how to work and how to be with other people. So there's just a lot there that I think allows us to really come together as a staff, come together as a school, come together as a community. Because our young people now know, they see the poster too, and you can ask them, what does it mean to collaborate? Well, they can tell you and they can give you examples of it the same way they can tell you what it looks like to solve a math problem or do a certain assignment in a different class,
Right.
because it's part of how they are learning.
Yeah. And those are transferable skills. It doesn't matter whether they go to a place of finance and accounting business or they go to college, but those are be a good human skills.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything else that you're just itching to talk about that I haven't asked you a question about our work and our transformation within Romeo Community Schools?
Well, one of the things I wanted to, and this probably maybe sounds a little different because I am kind of a little bit of a homer, but I do coach in a number of different communities around the country and across the pond. And one of the things a lot of the communities always ask is how we're doing. Like, where do we stack up? You know, everybody wants to win, right? Or we want to be the best or this, that, and the other. But in terms of the idea of a process where we're never done of continuous improvement, we're all winning as we're continuing to move. Because as we hear back from our graduates, when we hear back from teachers or parents and saying, you know what, my young person can do this or was able to get this experience or etc., we know we're winning. And I will tell you in comparison, or not even in comparison, but just along in our network, things that strike me, whether it's at the high school, who's been doing this a bit, or even now at the middle school, that Romeo's ready. Like, we have gone and done the work. We talk about the idea of our community, and we talk about the community that is Romeo Community Schools and all the individual townships and villages that encompass that. And we are about community. This is a special place. There's a reason why, you know, people like myself are here 50 years. I mean, because it's a great place to grow up and it's a great place to raise a family. So when we think about the community as a strength of ours, well, if we're not using that, I mean, that would be a waste of an asset. The people here want to help and want to be involved. They just want to know how. This process allows them to come in. They know who to speak to. They know how they can help. And it's not just a token, well, what do you need me to do? It's, I want to be in there and really get next to the teachers and help the students really get there. So I think the idea that Romeo's ready, I think the idea too, when you talk about a middle school specifically, you have a large number of kids in that building, Mr. Martz. And this model allows them to break that down into smaller learning communities within that large building. So all students are known, all students are heard, all students feel they have a place of belonging, which sometimes cannot be when you're in a very large institution. Same thing at the high school. And I think the idea of the true community connectedness and also the productive struggle that comes with change. I think you mentioned before, Ms. McFarland, the idea that teachers, we like control. You know, we like to be the expert. We like to make sure that we are, you know, competent in what we do, and we are. But the productive struggle, when you do something like this, true transformation, when you're sitting there next to a CEO and a seventh grader at the same time and having to come together, that productive struggle that comes into that can be difficult for all. And I think what I saw and what I've seen in working over the years here in Romeo is that we've embraced the productive struggle in that way. And we've looked to overcome whether it's those differences or whether it's just, like we say, that language that maybe wasn't connected, and really come together with the right outcomes in mind, which is our young people.
I can hear your passion.
Yes.
We're glad that you stayed in Romeo and that you continue to support us and work with us. What about you, Mr. Bojo? Some parting thoughts or words?
Well, just to piggyback off of what Scott said, I mean, anyone who's listening who wants to get involved in the academies, I mean, there's a spot for everybody. I mean, whether it's a one-person business or a huge company, everyone can contribute in one way or another, and we are absolutely flexible with how we engage with our community and with our partners. And please feel free to reach out.
Yeah, so it's rich.boggio, Boggio, at romeok12.org.
It is indeed.
That it is. And we're always looking for partners. And like you said, whether they're a small piece of a business, a solo business, or a large corporation, we're always looking for ways to connect our students. And I think what's important too is a reminder, we're not asking our high school students to pick the career for the rest of their life. What they may be in their pathway may wind up being what they decide to go into or study. But you know, if we can get them to learn they don't want to do that, it's saving some money if and when they do decide to go to college, that they don't spend their first 2 years spinning their wheels. And I know we also have opportunities through individual job shadows of kids that may be interested in some careers that we don't offer in one of our pathways.
Absolutely. I send kids out on one-offs. I have 4 kids going tomorrow to a veterinary clinic.
Yeah. So, I mean, just because you're a business in our community and you don't see yourself in one of our pathways, we're always looking to support our students' interests and what they may find passion in right now. And Mr. Martz?
You know, it's sitting back here listening to everybody. I'm just the excitement in everybody's voices that we're bringing a community together. We're excited at Romeo Middle School to start that process of bringing the community together with us, working to help our students here and the impact that our kids will have in the community. I'm just cannot wait for that process to really get going and off the ground at Romeo Middle School.
And I'm going to use a phrase, and I think I've probably switched it and changed it, but I remember when we were working at the beginning with our 9th grade teachers, that they chose to be in the 9th grade academy, and we were working with them, go slow to go fast to go smooth,
Yes.
right? I think that was one of the statements that was used. And
It's a Paula Barkleyism.
yeah, I think when we think about the middle school, it's the work is so exciting. And I know we brought a bigger group to Akron last week, and just some of the ideas that keep getting bounced around. And I'm really, really excited for our kids. And elementary, don't fret. We're getting to you next, because I really think that the opportunities that we can create for our students are unique than other districts, in the sense that it's for all students, not just a select population of kids.
One thing I also think, this idea of trusting the process.
Yeah.
If I'm a parent, right, and I'm sending my student to Romeo Middle School and to be trusted, you know, during the day, and all of a sudden it doesn't look like what it looked like when I remember being in middle school, you know, and all of a sudden you're worried that it's different. And well, you know, in other places it still looks like it did when I was in middle school, and this is different. Well, the world's different. And the world we're preparing young people for is different than the world that we had to be prepared for. So different is good. And why I say trust the process is know that everybody's involved. And if you are concerned, you too can get involved.
Absolutely.
So the process, being community connected, in one way or another, brings us all together with a common focus and a common goal. And how we get there, we don't know the outcome. That's the beauty of Ford NGL. I don't know what the outcome is going to be. I don't know what it's going to look like at Romeo Middle School 3 years from now.
Correct.
But we put a process in place
Yes.
to give you a plan, and we will review that plan. We will progress monitor that plan. That plan will change because our world
Absolutely.
changes. So understanding as a parent, as a business owner, as a faith-based person or a community leader, trust the process and get involved in the process if you have something to offer.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate your time this afternoon, gentlemen, and hopefully our community who are listening to our podcast have learned a little bit about the work that we've embarked on with Ford NGL and what's going on at our high school and our middle school along the transformational line. So thanks for coming this afternoon.
Thank you.
Be
Thank you for
Romeo.
having us.
Be Romeo. Thank you.
In closing, I want to thank our district leaders and Ford NGL community coach, Scott Palmer, for their time today. I also want to thank our listeners for tuning in. Coming up next, we will hear once again from student leaders, in this case, Romeo Middle School leaders. Members of the leadership team and student council will let us know why taking on a leadership role is important to them and how they make a difference to their school community. Thank you for joining us, and tune in next week to keep up with Romeo Community Schools. This podcast is powered by the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. If you're looking to start a podcast for your business or personal use, look no further than MIT TV. They can get you access to equipment, a production engineer, and you can even edit your podcasts. That's all right here at the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan, and you can contact them right now via email at mit.tvromeo@gmail.com. That's mitt.tvromeo@gmail.com.